Here we are, One Love Festival.
Greetings.
Eli P. and
I'm
you,
Mitri.
sir. I'm Mitri, and you're both from CounterAction Soundz.
That's correct.
I'm going to say CounterAction Soundz with a Z.com.
Yes,
So
please
people
do.
know exactly how to find you.
Correct.
What brings you here to the festival?
So we are one of the bands that were on the main stage. It's a quite special festival. It's very unique. And for some reason, although the UK is a very historical reggae place, especially in Europe, it's the only festival currently that deals with reggae and roots. There is one more which deals with dub and sound systems. So it's a very interesting experience in that we get to see the most hardcore of the section of the audience that is around the festivals in terms of reggae and dub.
And you say this is rare, but you guys are quite rare when it comes to live
Yes,
dub.
we are, I believe, one out of two bands in the UK who are strictly what we call dub-wise, and we base our sound on the sound system culture. So although we're a live band, we are also a live mix studio process happening on stage. And so we are a hybrid of live music and studio processes, which means we can get the tough dub kind of sound with all the echoes and the wheeled filtering and all of that you would hear on a heavy sound system, say like Aration Steppers or Abashanti or Channel 1. But we can also do the breaks and the mixing and the lows and the highs of live instrumentation.
How do you free flow with that kind of setup? Is somebody in charge of digital monitoring who's doing analog?
We're actually very militant, and our whole concept, we started off as a vinyl label, and we wanted, although we were playing a lot of sound systems, we wanted to have a way of representing our sound live. So what we do is based around 4 people, 2 of which are strictly concentrated on live instruments, drums and bass, and then the 2 of us, Eli and myself, are dealing with technology. Eli is dealing with samples and certain loops and triggering and things like that and analog synthesizers. I have a desk and I also do the lead vocals and a little percussion, and we combine these things on the desk. So we've got control on stage, and together with a sound engineer we usually work with, we can sort of recreate that effect in front as well. And it's an ongoing thing, and it's very organic, and we use a software called Ableton Live, which a lot of DJs use, which gives us the opportunity to take parts of our release tunes on vinyl and rearrange them whichever way we want live.
You're very calm. This sounds stressful to me.
It's very stressful.
Tell me, Eli, is he a taskmaster? Does he lose his? Does he lose his?
No
rank?
comment, man. No comment.
No.
I think he keeps us all on track, and it sounds complicated. It probably is as complicated as it sounds. So we.
But when you're
definitely
feeling
know
it and you're there,
yeah, when we're there and we're in. I mean, like, I think we're better for it. You just need someone who's driven and who knows exactly what he wants.
is there a lot of eye contact?
Yeah.
Is that where the
It has to
communication
be,
happens?
yes.
Yeah.
We are sort of quite multicultural as well. I think it's worth mentioning. I have a Greek background. Eli P comes from Dominica, originally through London. Our bassist is Irish, and our drummer is Cornish/Welsh.
So where's the Leicester connection?
We're all in Leicester.
Yeah.
Eli has left us now and is in London. So we are kind of also
It's
a
not far away.
national band, if you like. We travel a lot, which also means we don't necessarily have as much time to iron out details. So we are very much about the moment and depending on the settings. So a lot of the time we like to play on actual sound systems, and there we can get very dubby and very heavy and extend tunes to 10 minutes each, etc. But then we do sets like here in the daytime, in the sunlight, where we can play a bit more one drops, a bit more rootsy and shorter, tunes, maybe more vocals, So we can't really practice and fix it totally anyway, and sometimes it works really well, other times it doesn't. But, I guess that's the magic of live, isn't it? And the challenge.
Can you remember off the top of your head best gig you guys ever played?
Best gig? Oy, that's a difficult one.
We were talking about that the other day, actually.
I think actually it was in Leicester. We played a gig in a very famous African Caribbean center called the Workshop, actually. It used to be called. And during the 80s was the center of the Midlands for sound system dancers.
I used to love Leicester, but I only played like the Shed and the Charlotte.
Right, well, we've played both.
I fell off the Shed once.
The Charlotte, unfortunately, is no more. It's become a tiny little pub
sad.
now.
We had a little commiseratory gig when it went. It was a shame,
I love that venue. As horrible as it was, it's got so many good stories. We did a gig there at the workshop, and it was a very humble gig, but I suppose because it's just around the corner from where we lived, it felt very comfortable, and we got very hyped over it.
So when you're not on stage, you must be in a studio. The way you work, it sounds like you're doing a lot of studio work.
We do a lot, and I think it's also important to mention that we're in the band, pretty much all of us produce, and all of us have a little setup of their own and do different
I mean, we're in Superhet here.
It's an incredibly looking studio.
The desk?
Very nice.
I took his card.
Oh, fantastic.
So we do spend quite a lot of time on our own individually, just doing a lot of things, and for the material for the band, everybody contributes. So we have tunes of Eli P's. We've got tunes from our drummer, who's called Grape Undercub, and our bassist, and we adapt them, or sometimes we use them as they are. But we're quite open in trying different things. And as you know, when you have a set material, it gets tiring, so you need to add things and keep it interesting. But, I think our life generally goes between studio and touring. And
how is touring? You've took some time off recently.
Yes. Actually, I had about 7 months of touring with a broken back. I was walking around like this.
Did you know it? You knew it was broken?
I knew there was a problem with my disc, but by the time I got through all the waiting lists, etc., it was about 7 months. So we had a bit of touring in Europe-wide, with wheelchairs at the airports and lots of jokes and things and a lot of painkillers, and it was very rock and roll. But then I had some surgery. I'm now back upright, and I'm sort of in the rehabilitation stage now. Wow. And this was actually my first gig since the surgery.
Oh wow, well done.
Hence my tan and stuff. I actually took some good time off.
And I won't say, I was just about to try and make a hair joke about what damaged your back, but I know that's not original. You've probably heard that from the surgeons.
I have. There was plenty of jokes about the hair and figuring out what to do in surgery, because everything really has to be covered and stuff. Yeah.
What did they do?
I think they gave up in the end. They just went, just leave it. I wear a sock sometimes.
But how many years? It's amazing.
I think I've lost count. Maybe of 15 or so.
15 years.
Yeah. We as I said, I'm from Greek background, and although I wasn't born there, I wanted to get my passport, so I went back and I did the obligatory military service, which involves a lot of shaving and clothes.
Oh, wow.
And as soon as I finished that, I thought, that's it.
But the hair being, connected to your spiritual beliefs.
Yes.
Did your beliefs come after your military service, or did you have to just put up with it?
I think, Marley said it better when it's, how do you become a Ras, he was asked once, and he said it's not how long it took for me to become a Ras, it's how long it took for me to realize I was a Ras already.
Okay.
And for me, I suppose, like many people in Europe, it was Marley that sort of opened the doors, the floodgates. And in my teens, I started reading up on His Majesty and finding out, in a place where I did school in Greece, and Greece was very insular for a while, and suddenly there was a lot of immigration, so there was a lot of questions about living together with other tribes and different belief systems, etc. And there is no better reference than His Majesty. So for me, initially, it was just academic, if you like. I also come from an Orthodox background, Christianity, which is very intense and very militant in many ways. So I always believed in that higher power and in mysticism, but I never quite felt close to the way it was delivered and the way the church has become, if you see. So this whole concept of academic, very sort of multicultural and tolerant philosophy that His Majesty preached, together with the mysticism of Orthodoxy, mixed in with a bit of streetwise street life, because a lot of the Rasis come from the street and from difficult backgrounds, at least historically, if you like. It comes obviously from, the remnants of slavery and the black races, if you like, return to appreciate loving, as we say, their own selves and their majesty and their history through time. So how does that connect to a Greek guy?
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a mixture of, I mean, Rastafarianism, which is a horrible word, can be divided or is separated or is interpreted in various different ways. So you have the Bobo Shanti, you have the Nyabingi, you have the 12 tribes of Israel, you have the Ethiopian World Federation. There's a few different organizations that are more or less organized, but it's also very much a movement to I. It's more than a religion. It's a way of life, and so a movement which is very modern, which lives in Babylon, essentially, in the madness of the city and modern Western civilization, but is very aware of mysticism, which we've lost a lot, and is also very aware of having to deal with very different cultures and clashes around it. To me, always seemed like a totally natural choice, and it's a totally natural progression, and it's helped me very much to understand where I come from and how that relates to the world, much like when you travel and you go to a very far away place,
There's a lot of juxtapositions, like you say, with that way of life and the way modern society is, shall we say, conducting itself
very
right
much
now.
Yes.
Over here and being saturated by the music. Just at this festival, there is this overwhelming feeling of love. How do you take that from everybody here in this solidified kind of mass of love, and how do we get it out there and actually start? You look at the news at the moment, there's not a lot of love.
I mean, this is a very general question, and it is to do with, in general, humanity and where we're heading and things, I think, and I've always believed that we are only responsible for our own selves. I can't really be responsible for Eli P or anybody else in my band. I can only be responsible for myself, and that means my physical health but also my spiritual health. And I think in the West, what we may be lacking a little bit is a practice of how to keep our minds as physically fit as we consider our bodies should be. And if you want, that also links back to Rasta. The main thing about Rasta is I don't need a church, I don't need a temple, because my body is my own temple. And that can be translated in everything, whether, how you think, how you read, how you speak, what you eat, And there's no specific fixed way of doing it, although the reference is always the Bible. I think basically, to answer the question, the more we work on our own selves, the more we're able to give unconditional love and not expect anything in return and not be selfish. And the more of that is going on, it's inevitable that as a society, there will be a transformation, But a festival like this, as hard as it is for the organizers, which I'm sure it is, because reggae is very much an underground thing in the UK now, it used to be in the charts, but now it's very much a vibes thing, if you like, to use a favorite term of reggae, and perhaps not so strong money-wise, and not so followed by the people who have got the means. And you can see this in this festival. There's people from all walks of life, and sometimes very culturally different, but they're all united by this sort of movement, if you like, this sort of sound, and sometimes it may not even be completely conscious. So I think it's a matter of time. Either the planet goes, or we finally find a way to get rid of a little bit of the selfishness.
It's probably
get along.
I mean, I'm not sure if this is the only time you've ever been asked, how do we get world peace? That was a good answer.
Thank you. It's an inspiring place to be at, and it sort of generates these thoughts, I think, just walking around, like you said.
Definitely, and you're thinking, come on, this is easy.
Yeah.
This is easy to be
really
nice
is.
to one another.
It really is.
Would you say the music is akin to prayer in the way that you do it?
I think, to me, being a Ras is completely interlocked with the music, and I think the music is the reason why I'm a Ras as well, and the reason why I've decided to spend my life in music. It's because in this music, and I can't think of many other musics around, any other genres, there is such a positive message, and it's not always a mollycoddling gospel type of message. It's very real sometimes. You might have, Marley's a great example, the happiest tunes, and if you listen to the lyrics, they're very dark, but that's reality. The weather changes constantly. There's rain and then there's sun, and snow and then there's summertime, and so I find that to be the most natural way, and at the end of the day, even if you don't want to understand the music beyond that level, the effect is there. Word sound, we say in Rasta, word sound and power. In the beginning was the word is so powerful. If you spend all your night talking about behinds and guns and all the rest of that, there's one type of energy you're generating, and you know, if you spend your night devoting and thinking about higher things and love and understanding and getting together, you know, it's inevitable that you're raising your vibrations. You know, you'll feel better. There's this effect especially from sound systems. You go to Shaka or anywhere else and you pick a corner and you stay in that corner all night. By the time you get out, it's like the deepest church feeling, the deepest gym feeling, you know, all of that combined, you have a whole weight that's been lifted, you know. And obviously I'm completely partial, but I don't think it exists in many other music, you know, in other events. And I mean, look at this. How many security guards are there here? How much police have you seen? You know?
And they're looking bored.
Very bored.
You know, until the music starts, and then they're like,
Very
excellent.
bored. Oh, you know, the worst that can happen is somebody might get a bit overly tipsy and start over hugging you and telling you things. You know, that's about as bad as it gets on a reggae gig generally, you know? And how many events can you think of right now that have that sort of vibe on their own?
Yeah.
You know?
We're simultaneously, the V Festival is happening somewhere else in the country, and I had some scary instances at the V Festival.
Yes.
There are some, you know, aggressive moments out there.
Yes.
Whereas you appear right now to be the ambassador of word, sound, and power.
Well, I had a great night's sleep. You're a lovely guy, and we're in a studio. You know, it's summer. You know, it couldn't be any better.
It's
really.
easy. It's
You know,
easy.
you've got me in a really good time. What can I say?
Remind us where we can find you online, and of course, get some of your music.
So my name is Imitri. That's I-M-I-T-R-I, and if you just Google that, you'll get a bunch of links. But we've got a website which is CounterAction. That's the logo. CounterAction Soundz with a Z, and you can get our vinyl and dates for further gigs. Next gig now is in France in September. I'm in France again in October, Croatia. There's a few different things, mainly Europe at the moment and England. And in Leicester we do a few different things. We also promote a festival called United Nations of Dub, which is a sound system event.
Fantastic.
And so, you know, anything to do with reggae and dub, I'm usually around.
Imitri, thank you
A real
very
pleasure.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Absolute
Guidance to everyone, you know, and just believe in yourself, the rest will come. Love.